What you doing? I'm your Otakutainer, the AC source with this Otakutainment reviews. I am talking about EnDjinn Quest by Seji-bot, the complete one-shot, which started around December 25th, 2023, and finally wrapped up on September 3rd, 2024, somewhere around there, on onsol-go. It is about 148 pages as a one-shot, but in 8 chapters, covering about 9 months. It is a manga, both terms kind of used when describing it. I say it can be both, because it is, and it fits really nicely with this style. Now, I already covered the first chapter in a lot of details, and if I spent as much time on that one as I did each chapter for this and make that whole video, it'll be real long. So I'm going to try to keep it more to the point, try to just cover the main things. Of course, I'm probably get distracted, talk more in depth, because there's a lot of cool stuff in this. But if you want, especially a lot of talk about the art, the style, stuff like that, and then a lot of detail about the first chapter, go find that video and watch that. This will try to cover all of it in a more broader sense. Now, of course, there will be a lot of spoilers, but that's what to be expected. To start with a non-spoiler kind of review for this, or just to go over what the story is really about, the setup at the very beginning for the lore is a great blurb for the story overall, so I'm just going to read that to you real quick. In the shimmering vastness of the Twilight Realm, Supreme Lord Seji-bot wielded the celestial power of Soluna energy so immense that stars could dance at his whim. Realms trembled, fearing its uncontested might. The cosmos chose a guardian, Oroji. With unmatched valor confronted Seji-bot in her harness, the boundless Soluna, sealing him away. Oroji stood as the sentinel of light and shadow, ensuring harmony across the realms until he had a revelation. A younger and even more capable warrior needed to step up to take his place as the guardian of the cosmos. I would think if there would be something to go on the back, just like any other book, this should be it. But it's also a great, cool lore thing to open up its story. Actually talking about the story, the art, the everything overall for this, the art is going to be the biggest thing for me to talk about. I already talked about a lot, so just a kind of brief overview of everything. The art, if you look at it right away, it has a lot of influence from Dragon Ball, just that older manga style, from the backgrounds, the world building, to just straight up art style. It also has some of its own uniqueness, like the hand sketch and coloring kind of aspect to it. I don't know if it's actually called hand sketching, but it's obvious that is to me. There's an obvious digital style you see, and this isn't that. As far as I know, I'm not an art expert. This is just me trying to figure out what I'm seeing. And then there's color pages, that a lot of red and blues accents, especially the beginning, and then of course a lot of other colors, but to me the red and blue stand out the most. But this accents to just like a lot of fighting and action. It's not overbearing, and there's still enough cool color pages. It's not like it's really like the less is more kind of deal going on with this, and it's really nice and adds a little bit of like artistic personality to it. Now, it is mostly consistent in a solid style, but there is still just a bit of wonkiness every now and then. Maybe it has to do with the style, or I don't know exactly where it's coming from, but it's just little things sticking out. So maybe it just is part of this style that stuff slips through. I don't know exactly what else to say about it besides that. The story is great at characters having unique dialogue, especially with the speech patterns. And also, even the narrator's voice, you kind of feel like a almost humorousness, but definitely like lighthearted, like a really cheering on kind of presence with the narrator. Even during the explanations and stuff, in between chapters, when we're like, oh, what's going to happen next with the characters and all that, you get that, and it's a really nice touch. It really gives you that like announcer, narrator vibe from, I feel like you don't see as much now. It probably is like more classic manga kind of narrator. Along with this, with names, there's a little bit inconsistencies, especially for apostrophes. I don't know if it matters that much, but some stuff just gets interchanged. I think it's the whole process of, honestly, onsolgo, onsolgo. It's everything. They're still trying to find their footing. Seiji's probably still trying to, come to trying to make something new, something that's not just manga, but now it's ManaA, and it's that like process of trying to switch over and be consistent with one, but you still have those tendencies for stuff to come out. So you see manga pop up, you see manga pop up, you see parts, stuff, or chapters being used, you see names with apostrophes, different spellings of names being used throughout. So there's some of that just in the writing that's inconsistent, and I notice it, but I'm also taking close looks at it. So that's why I'm saying I don't know if it matters that much, or if it's just, or if it even matters at all, and if it's intentional. Because sometimes that's just how speech works, how characters talk works, and stuff like that. The story overall, very classic shonen. It really follows that Dragon Ball, because I think since the style is so influenced by it, I think that's the thing I'm going without being able to help but compare it to. But the story, very to the point linear. Of course, it's a one-shot, so it's supposed to be like that. But besides that, it does set up a world, lore, characters that you can already feel like a lot can be done with more outside of the one-shot if it continues. It being a one-shot, I feel like it would work better if it was just a seamless one-shot, as if it was just one really long chapter instead of breaking it up into chapters. And this is me, more of a nitpicky thing, is I really like things to flow onwards. I really like things to be long. That's probably why I'm the kind of person who wants movies to be at least 2 hours long, no less. And I don't really want chapters that much. I want long chapters because I don't want stuff to get broken up so much, especially as it gets later into the one shot and it gets like actions, and then you get the action broken up by these chapters, and it's like, it doesn't need to be. It's 140 pages. Yeah, that's long. Maybe a intermission in the middle would be something cool before the action starts, but I don't know. I get it. It's the process of writing this and being able to put out the story. But if this was to be published as an actual book, I would say, re-edit it to where it could just be one long chapter. But then that wouldn't make sense as a book. If it was one actual book, it'll make more sense to have chapters, because that's what people use. This is a very just an opinion of mine, more than, I don't know, me saying it should or shouldn't. Because there's a lot to talk about just with that little aspect alone. And for something that it's just such a small detail. So I should move on. So that's mainly my thoughts, just overall different aspects of it, without actually getting into the details and my thoughts on the things that actually happen in the story. So let's just jump right into that. Starting with the prologue is ahkai first meeting scene, Ororoji, be a celestial guard Golojin. This part, I think, has changed from the original. I've been reading the chapters as they came out, so I feel like there's a lot on just forgot. To me, reading the whole thing all at once, all together, makes it seem a whole lot different, which is probably why I wanted it to be just like one giant chapter. Gotta move on to that. I'll talk about more of that in the end. But I just feel like there was stuff changed or added, which is cool to see, because I think some of my problems, like, oh, that was kind of short, or I don't really see. So what I think has changed or was added is something was added, because I didn't realize this Ororoji was the same that is training ahkai, but then whatever was added in this makes it obvious. But even from this prologue, now I still don't know where ahkai is from, or why he's there, where any of them are from, really. But we at least do know now ahkai is going with this Ororoji that is seen later. So in part 1, as compared to all the others being chapters, Orojin's, I'm also going to say something before I continue. I'm going to talk about it in chapters, even though I want it to not be in chapters. I kept going back and forth on whether it should be just talk about one shot, take away the fact that any of this is separated, but I also want to talk about how it's presented and talk about it that way. So, even though I feel like it's better if I just ignore the fact that it's in chapters, I have to talk about it because it's in chapters, like this. So, part 1, Orojin's 7 rotations later in the upper ram. Ororoji is training ahkai to use Soul Luna and be a soulcaster, and it is now time for the 3rd and final trial. Okay, we don't know what the other 2 trials were. It never says. I would have been nice at least a mention or something like that, but it's okay. It's just I'm curious. Okay. Anyway, so this 3rd trial is to retrieve the tri-realm tablet from Soul Super, the mortal realm, lower realm, or whichever. If that's two, there's 3 realms, right? I think that's what it said. Okay, so is that different? Lower realm, mortal realm, upper realm? Is that 3 different things? Huh. Maybe I'm not clear on that. That might be a me thing, not remembering correctly, but it also might not be clearly stated in this. Use your own judgment on that. Anyways, meanwhile, there's 3 other elders. We don't get their names until nearly the end, but they watch and question Orochi's judgment. And then there's a very stereotypical looking flying saucer, but also very Dragon Ball Z looking flying saucer, just ride down to Soul Super. Next, we meet the Soul Knight engineer ManaA. I'm looking for a battery core in the Bali Forest. I'll go ahead and say I was expecting a lot more from ManaA. This is one of the things I remember because I was really excited about this character when I reviewed the first chapter and was wondering what was going to happen later. Not as much is done with ManaA as I wanted. There's a little bit, but I'm just mentioning that now before I forget because I feel like a lot more could happen with ManaA. But anyways, yeah, looking for a core battery in the Bali Forest. Runs into 3 scouts that was trying to avoid. And that's the other thing. These scouts, they look like just ordinary goons, thugs. Those that will get just like beat up right away, tossed to the side, forgotten about. Maybe pop up over and over again because they're like the lucky loser goons that they get beat easily, but they are never out of the picture. But no, they're apparently really strong. So strong that even ManaA never really sees them has never before seen a scout like this take damage. That's mentioned at one point. So I don't know what to do about that to make them initially a lot stronger, or maybe they don't need to be. I don't know. They just look pretty basic for supposedly really strong scouts. I don't know. But around the same time, ahkai arrived on the planet and has a little stellar sense goes off. The only time it really seen. Maybe that will get brought up in future stories. It kind of seems to be brought up and forgot about right away. Moving on to part 2, there's no, at least in this, no proper title page or really even a name for chapter, nothing like that. I don't know if it's forgotten, if it was ever there in the first place. I could have probably went back and checked the second chapter. Wait, can I? I don't know. Anyways, but there's still a drawing of some sort before it gets started. It's just weird because there's a very a very like Shonen Jump title page for each chapter, whether it be an actual title page or one of those kind of title pages that's also just the first page of panels and stories. This one doesn't have that though, which, I mean, overall, the whole thing has a very Shonen Jump vibe to it. I know it's a manga now and not manga, but of course it started as a manga. It even has like the read left to right little thing on each page, which is really cool and really neat. I see that. The other thing I think I forgot to mention, I'm getting distracted all over the place. It's just things that pop up in my head. I felt like in the first chapter originally, there was a lot more, just like, I wouldn't want to say interruptions, but just like little things that popped up that weren't stories. It was just like maybe another random title page kind of feel to it, or another just little insert of EnDjinn Quest, something like that. I don't think it had it anymore, so that must have been taken out for this like re-edit of the first chapter or first part. I don't know. But on to part 2, whatever the name was. ahkai just run around searching, then find some fruit, boo fruit. Just a little random thing because I guess it still needs to stall a little bit before we get into the scouts because we need a little time with them. But we do find out those scouts' names. There's Denza, there's Alboron. Names. I like the uniqueness of the names. Ooh, they hard to say. And then Tok, the captain. And then there's this thing just where I think both of them say it to Tok. It's like onsol, just like a I or yes sir or yes, something like that. Just like yes, I understand you, captain. Aye. Okay, something like that. But yeah, Tok is going to fight ManaA. And now me saying that because I wrote all these notes as I read it. Didn't go back that much to re-edit what I wrote when things change or I found out answers. But Tok is going to fight ManaA, but that doesn't really happen that much. There's not really much fighting between them because Alboron's supposed to look around for someone, and eventually ahkai comes. But before that, Alboron's charging like the EnDjinn, which is the ball above their head. I think I had questions about that the first time too. What actually is an EnDjinn? It's the little ball of... Oh wait, there is an explanation. A whole page for an explanation. This is just like a mystical orb that harnesses solar and lunar power, the Sol Luna, for attacks and stuff like that. But too much of it can cause the user to be petrified or just unable to attack. Kind of like an engine stalling, which I feel like now... I don't remember if I ever made the joke the first time. EnDjinn really is just like engine, like a car engine to me now. The more I say it, the more it feels like an engine for, like a car engine's equivalent for like a mystical being or something like that. And it's like, all that's where all the power comes from. You use that. I like it. It's really cool. And it's like djinn, djinn like a genie kind of djinn, and end, E-N-D, like the end of something. Like, are they in some kind of afterlife kind of deal? There's a lot of questions about the lore on this, and I don't know if I'm looking too far into it. There's more that's going to be revealed at some point, but I really like these kind of things that make you just think about and wonder and try to guess what's going to happen or what everything means. And EnDjinns is I feel like it's supposed to be a pun or play on words that is like in multiple levels. That's neat. Anyways, back to the story. After this explanation of what an EnDjinn is, we briefly see Lord Io, the big bad of the series. Is the one who actually has the Trireme tablet, so I guess that's where Ahkai's going to have to eventually go. And then we cut back to the upper realm and get officially introduced to the other elders. Yeah, introduction chapter. The chapter where we get the names of characters, we don't get a name for the chapter. Weird. I just realized it too. Yeah, then we get one of them, Kizo, kind of looked like a astronaut look to him. Then Isen, 2 eyes. Yeah. It reminds me of Chiatsu. Is that how you say your name? Chiaotzu from Dragon Ball. Just like severely damaged so much that completely wrapped in bandages. That's what it reminds me of. And then Yinka, just who I would say would be like the main rival to Orochi. One seems to speaks mostly to the other two, and then would be the one probably a butt heads more for Orochi. You don't see it that much, but that's just the vibe. It's like that kind of rival vibe that anyone kind of have, any kind of main character would have. But yeah. And then of course Orochi believes Ahkai could be the one to seal the lower realm. I don't know lower realm means the mortal realm, or if there's another realm below the mortal realm. I'm just a little confused about that. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, because I don't know anything about the realms yet and why they need to be sealed. What does that mean? I don't know. Or we're gonna find out. Not during this, at least. And then we go back to Alboran. Okay, I can't put out writing as Alboran in my notes, but for most of the time, people were calling this character Albo, so I'll just call it Albo if I remember. But yeah, about to let loose the EnDjinn attack this is when Ahkai finally shows up to punch and then send Albo flying. On to chapter 3. Now's my chance. Ahkai is here, and apparently the Soul Scouts are supposed to be strong, but like I said, I don't get that vibe. But they are strong. They're apparently really strong. The elders are watching, giving like that backseat commentary for the fighting, but also kind of like backseat fighting themselves, like backseat driving. But of course, I can't hear them. They're way who knows where, and they're just really wanting Ahkai to use the EnDjinn, and smart on Orochi's part. Orochi, which we find out later in a flashback, really wanted Ahkai to focus on just building the body and natural combat abilities, because that will in the end power up the EnDjinn instead of just only relying on the EnDjinn. So I think that's smart, just combat technique, experience, advice, either way. But yeah, the fighting officially begins. This is where I wish the chapters would stop and just be one long thing, because it does kind of take away from the flow, especially because there's action, but it's really like a 1-2 chapter, another 1-2 chapter, and so there's not a whole lot of action in each thing, even though it is mostly action, if you can get what I'm putting down meaning with that. Okay, anyways, but even though I say that, the action is really cool, and especially going back to the color accents and how it's used for the attack, it just makes it pop more, and it's really cool to see and exciting. probably why I don't want the flow to like be chopped up. But Mala takes this chance to run, but it's stopped by Denza. It says that ahkai is underestimated. It's mainly only underestimated by the elders. The enemies don't seem to underestimate ahkai yet, but there's also just not enough time for there to be any. As this, Akai's been knocked back, but is that really enough? The enemies don't really react too much to that. It's mainly the elders, so I don't know how much underestimating there's going to be, but it was also really quick. As is all of these chapters, because now it's chapter 4, the little engine that could, the obvious reference with that. And I think the thing that really solidified it as EnDjinn meaning or referencing a car engine, or I guess a train engine at this point. And now the flashback I mentioned to 6 rotations earlier of them both training, just natural combat to help further increase EnDjinn skills, mainly just fighting these Skolo djinns. And then just more doubts from the elders except for Orochi as Ahkai prepares to attack again. That's mainly it for the 4th chapter. Chapter 5, Juno. I don't know what that's supposed to mean exactly. I don't know if that's ever actually said. If it was, I missed it, glossed over it. Juno is that a name? Is that an expression? There's a question mark and an exclamation point in this title, so I don't know what that means. Anyways, Ahkai deflects the blast, then kind of scolds all bow for that being dangerous. It's a fight. It's a humorous moment. Could just random, and then Mala reminds them that they, and I'm not like being sarcastic with this. Mala reminds them that they were trying to take the J reader, and it's kicked us things. I don't know why you would bring that up, especially when you're trying to escape. They kind of just have like, oh yeah, but it is also a good point of why they just standing around, not helping, not really doing anything with Mala. Remember when I thought they were going to be fighting Mala too? Mala fighting back? No, they prevented escape, but they haven't really been doing anything yet. They're just watching. It's like, okay, you could do a little more. But that's also classic like action of anything. Everyone stands by and watch and patiently waits for their turn. I don't know. But yeah, there's then there's like a classic kind of move where don't move or the hostage dies kind of scenario. And then we finally see Ahkai start to charge the EnDjinn move. Oh, elders are still doubting though. When there's an ominous energy is detected. And I don't know exactly what I thought this energy was going to be. I'll get to it in a bit, but I thought it was going to be Io, but I have doubts. I'll get into that in a second. Now, Ahkai, Alvaron go head to head more, and then it says this is when the action really starts. It's like, okay, but now I'm starting to have a little bit of a doubt myself of how things will wrap up cleanly, because this is about halfway through. Ahkai's still facing Alvaron. There's still 2 other scouts, and you still need to get the tablet from Io. So how's this going to wrap up that much? And maybe the Ahkai's engine is really that strong, it's going to knock everyone out, and he's just going to zoom to Io? Well, we'll see. Chapter 6, the Locket Engine. Spoiler, I guess? Not really. I will go ahead and say this chapter title doesn't make as much sense. It would almost make more sense for that to be the next chapter name, but I'm not focusing too much on that. What I am focusing a whole lot on is the animals look astonished. The animals have like the like weird eyes and the sweat art, and it's really funny. I don't know, it amused me so much. It's so good. It's really just good art of drawing animals, and I don't know. I think it's because the art style is not like super realistic style, but then these animals look like nice. I don't know. Anyways, Denza says the mission is over since Albo went into combat. Don't know why, but that matters. I think later we find out Albo is given power, kind of like I don't know, not like a machine or a robot or something, more like an android kind of thing. Maybe that's what's going on. But yeah, apparently Albo wasn't supposed to fight. Don't know the exact details. That's just me guessing. But yes, Toke is in charge, and now finally tries to kill Mala, finally taking some kind of action, but is shot in the back and taken out in one blast by some random stranger. We'll get the stranger's name later, but you're not getting until I get to it into the story. So yeah, so now the new stranger shows up from orders from the Soul Counselor. Is that the elders? Is it someone else? I don't know if the elders referred to by council, but everyone knows who the elders are or know of the 4 elders. So I don't think it's exactly the council. It's just, it's brought up and then not mentioned too much more. There's a whole lot of new world being presented in this and characters and stuff like that. But it's because it's so short and just a one shot. It's like, oh, well, now I know all this exists. But where does it go from here? And we'll get more. I know that. But for now, it's just like, oh, what's this? What's this going to be now? Oh, I gotta find out sometime in the future. Okay. The other 2 are still duking it out until Ahkai's arm starts to lock up, act up. I guess that's where the engine lock comes. But it's not that big of a deal. It's more like, I wouldn't even feel like it's a lock up. It's more like a soreness, or more like, oh, my arm's starting to get tired, more than it seems like it's actually locked up. I don't know. But a question I had is, why is everyone so bandaged? Finally starts on bandage. Doesn't give me an answer why they're bandaged at all in the first place. I don't know. Maybe they're just ahead with bodies that are energy. Does that make sense? And they're having to be wrapped up, because it's not just Ahkai. It's not just the elders. It's everyone is. But they're on mortal plane, so I don't know why the mortal realm people also have bandages. I don't know. What are the bandages? I need these mysteries. I need answers. Anyways, unwraps our arm just a bit, and then gets faster. Still misses, but gets faster. And it will last as long as Ahkai's body holds up, which I feel like that's just how bodies work in general. Whatever your power, everything will hold up as long as your body holds up. I feel like that could have been maybe said in a cooler way, or a way that isn't like, oh yeah, that makes like too obvious a sense. But yeah, I'm also wondering, why are the others not unwrapping to get stronger? Questions. Well, I know there's an answer. I haven't asked about the answer personally. I know there's an answer. I'm going to wait patiently. But it is such a mystery to me what it's supposed to be, unless they're just floating heads on power, and the bandages are keeping that power together. But then everyone has the bandages, so why aren't they all just unleashing it to be power? I don't know. We'll have to see later. Now on to chapter 7, the petrifying clash, and overall the whole chapter seems faded. At first I was like, oh, petrifying, that sounds like, no, I think it's just something weird with the scanning, the printing, or something. It just looks faded. There's nothing else to say about it. Yeah, Ahkai beats up on Alvaron, finally using some of the unwrapped engine power. And now the new stranger, who we get the name of Benel, I don't know, is from a base, knows Mala, and intimidates Denza into fleeing. Then Ahkai's engine locks up the arm completely. I guess the lockup is the petrifying, so maybe lockup is the step before petrifying. I don't know. And then Alvaron returns the beatings really badly. And this is where the 4 elders finally show up at the end. Sent a blast to intercept Albo's attack to save Ahkai, but Ahkai's still out of it. I thought the 4 elders couldn't leave. I don't know exactly what they meant, because they talked about earlier how they're not supposed to leave the upper realm. I didn't know if that meant they literally physically could not leave the upper realm, or they're just not supposed to. It's like that scene from Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's like, oh, are you saying I can do this? What you're saying is you're trying to not allow me to do this. And I think that's kind of the still, like, they can go, they're just not supposed to go. And now we get to our final chapter, chapter 8, Legend. The legend is more, it feels like this is where the legend's getting realized there was a legend born. I'll get to that at the end. But yeah, there is a message from Seji-bot beforehand, the creator, not the godlike thing that was in the lore. Just talking about it, I feel like that could have been at the end instead of right before the last chapter, but oh well. Yeah, Kizo, the astronaut looking one, flexes a bit like godlike G. First time G is brought up, don't know exactly. J-I, Jai maybe, I don't know. And instantly makes Albo submit, lose consciousness, and like go comatose. And it's just a taste to show how strong the elders are. It's literally just a flex. Maybe Kizo having a little fun with it, who knows. And it goes to show that, oh, there's more unique powers that they're all going to have, because this wasn't even like physical combat. This was literally just like, it looked like there was just multiple Kizo, just like a mental attack of some sort. So now there's even more questions about them. This is the one shot of, here's a bunch of questions you're going to be asking yourself until the series starts with it. I guess that's what it has to be. But now, the new stranger that took out Toke, and now didn't get a proper introduction like every other character did. That's kind of a little disappointing, because it seems like Benele, I'm gonna say Benele, I guess. Seems like could be a cool character, or at least really strong character, but didn't get an actual intro. I don't know. And then wakes up Mala with an H now. That's one of those consistencies with names, with a little boink boink. Yeah, Mala wakes up furious, calls Benele a pervert. I guess was boink boinking the boobs. Who knows? We kind of see it from like a very flat angle, so you can't see exactly what the boink boinks are, but yeah, now they're both curious about what is going on with Ahkai, who Ahkai even is. And now it cuts to, because this is it, the action's kind of over. It's kind of, I don't want to say anticlimactic, because it did have like this interrupted big blast at the end, and then a cool moment of Kizo flexing. But you don't even realize, oh, the action's and all this fighting's over with now. Oh, okay. Because now we cut to Denza apologizing to Ayo, who is not mad, is understanding. Apparently knew this is how it was going to turn out. And then reveals that the tri-room tablet is inside Ayo. And it's like, oh. So wait, what does that mean? Ahkai was never going to get it. That's going to be, I guess, something you need a whole series for. Yeah, I thought the series would start with getting the trial room tablet. It's like, oh, the trial's done, and as the elders look over the unconscious Ahkai, says pass the third trial. It's like, oh, you did your best. It's the thought that counts kind of pass. I don't know, what was the other trials? Anyways, and now I'm also thinking like they sense some kind of energy, but it doesn't seem like Ayo ever came or did anything to this battle, so I don't know why they suddenly thought or suddenly felt this energy. But after they felt the energy is when Benele showed up. So now I'm curious. I don't know if it's a coincidence, but is there something more to Benele? I don't know. But yeah, never got the tablet back, and it's so interesting to end this one shot with a loss. Definitely a unique thing, and definitely leaving me with more questions. But yeah, I guess the thing is going to continue. The trials are done, but the overall quest, the overall main thing for the series will be getting the trial room tablet still. Fighting Ayo, I guess. More scouts and goons, whatever that's supposed to mean. I mean, Denza survived, so there still be that. Yeah, it's just an interesting way to end it. Or at least this pilot. Yeah, so the end, it's the end of the pilot. Saying it's a pilot makes it feel like even less of a one shot and more of a really long first chapter. Me debating on it. And really, can it even be called a one shot at this point if it's put out in a few chapters? I don't know. But like, can a single standalone volume be a one shot? Now it's not even a standalone volume, it's a pilot. It's a prequel to the main story. So, I'm rambling, but there's a continuation already announced. At the beginning of 2025, the main series will be EnDjinns with a Z. I already saw some work of it and art of it. It's really getting cranked out. It's looking really cool. Everything overall is just already seeming better, a lot cleaner. So I'm looking forward to that. Everyone else should look forward to it because it's going to be really cool. I can already tell just by this little bit I'm getting of it so far. Just my final thoughts. I don't know if I mentioned, there was a little bit of humor when the action started. I wish there was a little more because it really built up before. I get the action's supposed to be cool, dramatic, I do like Seiji's humor with some of the stuff. It's not like over the top. It's a little silly. It's definitely has to do with the art and faces and stuff like that. I wish there was still a little bit more of that. Once like the intense action started, you had it a little bit, like with the animals, for example. But I don't know. That's more just a me opinion kind of thing. And then, I already mentioned it before, and I try to explain it better now. It could be a solid but short standalone first volume or a volume 0 if you keep the chapters. If you don't keep the chapters and keep it like a pilot chapter, just one really long thing, I don't know how that would work, because then you would just have a really long first volume. And this is me assuming you put it out as standalone volumes. It can happen. It'd be cool. But if you do this alone with the chapters, and it should be formatted a little differently, edited just a little bit to be a little bit more cohesive. Like stuff like take the little comments from Seiji right before the last chapter and put it at the end of the chapter. Just other little things. And it's like, it's so solid and it's there. But it just needs a little editing, if that's the intention. It's digitally out there now like this, so it could still happen. Also, one thing I'm surprised I didn't see is at the very end, the typical thing you see at the end of a book of manga or volume of manga is like the little diagram, or like read it from like this, from right to left, like that. I'm a little surprised that wasn't there, because everything else was so typical Shonen Jump kind of styling for a manga for this ManaA. I'm kind of surprised it wasn't there already, because everything else really cool. It really feels like manga. But I know it's ManaA now, so I don't know. But you could also just add some bonus stuff at the end too, more character sketches, drafts. Just because 148, I feel like is pretty short. I'm not saying how long it needs to be, and I'm trying to separate this from manga. Just like a volume of manga is usually around 200 pages, right? Something like that. So, but you still could add a few bonus stuff, and it'll be cool to see. Maybe more commentary, other diagrams of places, and just a little bonus stuff at the end. That'd be cool too. And is this me just being like, hey, here's some of my suggestions, because wink wink nudge nudge, it'll be cool to have this actual volume physically in my hands. You take whatever you think I'm saying. Yeah, sure. But yeah, I still think it just works best as a, story wise, just flow wise, I think it still works best as just one long chapter with no breaks. But that's my opinions. Now, the thing I do for everything I review is talk about the names. I kind of have said the name a lot. EnDjinn Quest, EnDjinn. Okay, EnDjinn. Like the train. But I kind of said this in the middle, so I won't go over it too much. But end, like the end, maybe this is in the afterlife. Djinn, like a genie or whatever. But EnDjinn overall, like the thing that powers them, like a train engine. And then the quest, of course, is this third trial, going through it. But now we get the continuation of the series in djinns. So are the beings themselves? They're just... what are they called? I know like the type of fighter are like soul casters, but what are the actual beings called? I don't know. They're not human. They're not gods. We get the Golo djinns. Are they just djinns? Is that what they're called? I'm pretty sure it said that. I'm just forgetting, so I don't know. But yeah, and then EnDjinns was just, there'll be more of them, a whole group of them. I have no idea where the series will actually go, aside from still continuing to look for that trial realm tablet. I do see more characters, so I assume just from previews and stuff, I assume there'll be more kind of in a Kai situation or whatever. I guess wherever Mala came from, they'll go back and there'll be more people like that. And but now there's gonna be some cool stuff coming from. It's hard to even predict what's going to happen. I definitely didn't predict this ending, so that's cool. It's just, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited for it. I'm going to ramble on if I don't try to wrap this up. So, that is it for me talking about EnDjinn Quest, the whole thing. I do not think I stayed straight to the point like I meant to. I hope you at least. I hope what I said made you think more about this one shot and then the series in the future. I want to talk so much more about other manga and onsol-go, but yeah, if you want to read EnDjinn Quest and you haven't already, why did you listen to this first? I don't know, but it is available, the whole thing, on onsol-go. I'll leave links to that. But if you want to read more ManaA and more from onsol-go, I'll leave a link to that. And then, of course, find more of Seji-bot and EnDjinn's on. I'll leave the Instagrams for that, for both Seji-bot and EnDjinn's. So you can find all those links together. Bam, that's it. That's all I want to talk about. If you want to talk to me more about this, leave comments. Find me on social media, theacstories. Email me. I'll leave a lot of links in the description for you all. But before I go, I want to thank my Ko-fi members, VixLab and Julio Vasquez. If you want to help support me on that, go ahead and do that. But really, go support Seiji and other manga creators too first. I'll say that because I'm just enjoying everything that's coming out. But this has been it for this Otakutainment Reviews. I've been your Otakutainer, the AC Stories. Until next time, thank you so much, and bye.